It is 7 p.m. Wednesday, March 19th, the Board of Finance meeting in town session. Please stand for pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I got a motion to approve the minutes of February 19th, 2025.
So moved.
Thanks, John. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any corrections, amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions, June abstains, motion carries. Chair's comments. I'd like to just thank this board. I know it's been a long day and I appreciate the time and put in budget sessions and earlier meeting. I just want to say thank you and for all the comments and, you know, everybody doing the best they can. I really do appreciate it. Finance member comments. I'm going to start the other way. John, you have any?
What can I say? Thank you for having me and for the welcome this year. Hope that I can continue to be of some use to the board and to the town.
Thank you for the safety. We don't always just eat here and just have a party.
It's been long.
That,
Yeah, I echo a lot of great work here on a marathon evening. Liaison report, EDC, I think is doing a fantastic job. We're looking to survey the business owners in town to see what their needs are. I think that's the direction we're selecting. And so they're getting some good work done.
Liaison reports, library is putting on, we have a fundraiser happening right now. Get your gift cards, or get your raffle tickets for great gift card baskets. And the school building committee, is plugging along remarkably. It's crazy how quickly that is coming, along. And the tours that I've been able to see of just virtual inside the buildings, it's really remarkable. It's going to be a wonderful space for our kids. And they are on time and on budget. Hey.
very good.
As liaison for the facilities committee has issued or created, I'll say, an interim report that's being circulated. And good work has gone into that.
Thank you. John?
As far as liaison report, I think I'm trying to remember if I reported last month, the beach and rec, and it's been publicized, and we talked about it earlier. The master plan for the surf club has gone out, or the RFP is being drawn. And so it's obviously on the start of being on the radar for that. And I would just like to echo what was said earlier. Everybody on this committee, the respect that's shown and all the hard work that goes in. We have different opinions and different ideas, but it's been I think a very productive session here.
Yep. Thanks. Bob?
Yes, I want to echo the same sentiments that John said about everyone getting along well and doing a tremendous job at spending a lot of time going over the budgets. I think it definitely was a very, very, very easy budget session. A lot different than I think I've seen in other places before. Thankful and grateful everybody for all their time and commitment. As far as a liaison report, I am a member of the Senior Services Commission. However, their meeting took place on the 4th, which is when we had a BOF workshop. And I was not able to attend the meeting, but when they do have their minutes published, they will be on the town site. And I'll be able to report that as well at the next meeting. Thanks again, everyone, for all your hard work.
Thank you, Bob. Our first selectwoman here. Peggy, would you like to?
Well, I think obviously one of the biggest things that the town will be talking about is Academy. So we have 3 public information sessions scheduled for the public. One start next week on Wednesday, the 26th. There's one on April 2nd, one on April 6th or 7th or something, but it'll be posted. We put them on the calendar. I do want to voice my disappointment, obviously, that members of the Board of Finance did not vote to send this to the public. It's really, in my view, because this was a referendum originally approved by the public, they should have the say on whether or not the project continues. because there really wasn't a financial calculation in this, since the project budget overages were going to be funded by grants. So although I recognize people have very passionate views on this project, it's very controversial and people are very strong on both sides. I feel that's why the public really needs to have that vote. I don't feel like the Board of Selectmen should have stopped or killed the project. And that's why I felt like the Board of Finance should carry on, let the voters of the town make that decision, because of the history of the building. But nonetheless, the public will have an opportunity. And just want to remind everybody, May 6th, it'll be on the ballot. And we'll be sending out postcards to registered voters in town to remind them that this is unique, because normally it's just our budget referendum. And there'll be a lot of information to answer as many questions as we can about the project, along with the videos and the renderings and floor plans and all the stuff that the building committee has really spent a tremendous amount of time putting together in moving this project forward. So, and I do want to thank, I didn't hear the final results of your budget, so I thank you though for all your hard work. Hopefully there weren't any reductions made, but I know that you do all take a lot of time and try to really educate yourself on the budgets and are thoughtful about it, so thank you for that.
We thank you.
Okay.
Any comments or questions for the first selectman? Thank you, Peggy. Citizens' comments, anybody from the public who'd like to speak?
Sure, I'll speak.
Name and address for the record.
Name is John Bean, 104 Lovers Lane. I'm also the chair of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. So I sent you all some information. So I'm here to again speak on behalf of myself in support, and I'd like to see support for this project moving forward. You know, what I can say is our board and myself personally looked at this project from many different angles and perspectives. Certainly there's viable concerns from neighbors in the area. And now looking at this from so many different angles, I'm confident that we can work to address those. I've gone out into this area with the committee and alone with the DOT and the T2 Traffic Authority to do a road safety audit of the area. So I've now walked this area several times. And the more I was digging into it, the more I was seeing how needed it is. And that it's not just a necessity. When I first learned about this, I thought, geez, 75% of our town's public children will be in this area. It just makes sense to have a safe connection for them. The more I kept digging and learning and hearing and talking to people in town, the more I learned this is not just about the kids, although I think that alone is enough. It's a true community project. People throughout the town use this area. Neighbors walk and run in this area. And the more I was digging, the more it just made sense that, you know, when I shared some of this information before, I thought, geez, this is really a no-brainer. Fiscally, we have a great opportunity where this may not impact the town through the lots of fundings. It's seen massive support from folks within the town and from within the community. So, you know, I know it's not going to be the easiest project right now, and there's a lot of things that we need to look at, but that's part of what this design is, so that we can look at this and address concerns for traffic calming, road safety, and make it more accessible and safer for pedestrians. So hopefully you reviewed what I shared in my letter, but I certainly urge the board to approve this tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Thanks for your comments. Anybody else? Name and address.
Phil Jansen, 272 Green Hill Road. I own the property that adjoins Neck River, and there's a plan to put a very expensive bridge over Neck River along the road. It's going to involve filling in a lot of wetlands. And I also understand the maintenance for this sidewalk is going to fall on the homeowners in 10, 20 years. So if they put a very expensive bridge over Neck River, I don't want to have it turn into like a Tuxas Pond walkway type situation. And that's, I believe that the road should be widened for bike lanes and everything, but to put fill in the wetlands to do that, it's going to be detrimental and very expensive for the homeowners to maintain this.
Thank you, Phil, for your input. Anybody else in the public would like to speak?
I
Please speak. Hi. Megan Hogarth, 72 Whitford Place. I am here in support of the sidewalk project. I think one thing I would like to say is that I think it's very important that the parents and that the school systems are more involved in these discussions as they're happening, because I will have 2 young children at Neck River. I'll also have a 6th grader at Polson. And I only heard about this sidewalk discussion through a friend. And I feel like it hasn't really been publicly shared. And I think if it was, and if this is going to move forward further with debate, and that parents should really be brought into this, because to your point, if 75% of our school children are going to be in this area, then that impacts all of us. If it is a question of sidewalks connecting the schools, that to me truly is a no-brainer, because right now we have high school sports teams running in the street. I'm a resident on Whitford Place right now. I used to live on Warpus Road. I also drive my children to school and pick them up from Jeffrey. And every single time I do that, I see the high school track team running in that road. And every single time I think to myself, I really hope my children don't run track, because this is terrifying. They are running in the road. I see children riding their bikes on the road. There is no bike lane right now. That in itself is an issue, but these children, first of all, distracted driving is a serious problem. And children deserve a sidewalk if we can give it to them. I understand that there are instances where you just simply can't put a sidewalk where there isn't one now. And it's a non-issue and it's a non-starter. And unfortunately, that is what it is. But if we have an opportunity to put a sidewalk in an area where 3 of our schools are, I think we would be very irresponsible not to move forward with that, because we are essentially making a decision that could put our children in risk. We're not making a decision in favor of protecting not only our children, to your point, but all of our community members who jog, who go for walks. I thought to myself today, when I heard about this meeting tonight and I was coming in, I was thinking through, I got up the exit 58 in Guilford today, right in front of the Guilford Public School. And obviously this is on my mind, so I noticed it more today, but there were mothers pushing baby carriages. There were children on bikes. They were walking. And right now we don't have a safe place to do that. If I have a student who's at Polson and I want to walk over to Neck River, I would be putting myself and my family in danger by walking along Green Hill Road to do that. The other thing I think that needs to be paid attention to is all of the school programs that would be cut in terms of the mentoring that happens between high school and Polson students to our elementary school children. I know there's a list of 12 different groups that right now walk from Hand High School and Polson over to Jeffrey, and they provide musical instruction, they do peer mentoring, there's a math program, there's a reading program, and all of those students are right now able to safely walk from those schools to the elementary school. If we take that away from them, we're taking away opportunities on both ends. And then that's an education issue. This becomes bigger than what I'm hearing. I understand that it's an inconvenience. And again, in terms of like public education, from what I understand is that there is a plan for maintenance in the short term. I realize 10 to 20 years is not forever, but it's a short enough term. I think we're in 10 to 20 years, we could revisit it if that means giving our children a safe way to get around that area. So I just wanted to voice my support for sidewalks and hope that we move forward with the discussion and that it doesn't get, squashed. So, thank you.
Thank you, Megan. I don't know if you heard Megan. Megan volunteered to be like the community liaison.
Yes.
We have a vacancy on our- So nice, that's what I think.
With the PTOs, and I think there's just a real opportunity for parents to be better educated on these questions and what's on the table here. Because if you say to somebody, we're discussing sidewalks, let's talk about it. It's like, okay, well, why do I care about that? My street doesn't need sidewalks because I live on a cul-de-sac. It does. I live on a cul-de-sac. So to me, a sidewalk would be a nice to have. But then you're saying to me, okay, actually there's 12 programs now that your children will not be able to take advantage of because we don't have sidewalks. Now I'm paying attention. Then you explain to me that to get from one school to another, I need to walk on Green Hill because I can't walk across the path because of wetlands and because of the prevention. Then now this is an even bigger issue. And it's important.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes. Name and address.
I'm Maureen Burke. I live at 230 Cox Road. I'm here to speak out in favor of the sidewalk project. I don't know that I can add much more to what Megan has already said. I reiterate everything that she said. I brought my kids who will be going to Neck River because they would love to have sidewalks. We live in the area. I see kids, currently middle school, high school kids, track team running on the streets, and I know it's not safe, and I worry about them. I drive on Green Hill because I'm right around the corner. It needs a lot of improvements to slow traffic down. And while I don't want to be alarmist, as a mom, I think the idea that we're not going to have these safe sidewalks because of a tree or because of shoveling a sidewalk, one kid gets hurt, and all of that seems really, really small. So I would ask you that you do this study and take advantage of this great grant opportunity to make a safer environment for all our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Anybody else in the public who would like to speak? Name and address, please.
Jessica Joseph, 129 Green Hill, so close to the schools. I do bike my kids to school. It is a bit scary, but we feel like we had to be the change. I am also a member of the Madison Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I'll mention that. And just coming out in favor of the sidewalks, it just seems really like a no-brainer to have sidewalks around 3 of our 4 public schools. We know that the area is biked and walked and run. There's statistics, facts. I have pictures even as I'm biking and I'm walking. I'm taking pictures of that stretch. Certainly, we respect the neighbors that don't want it, but in all fairness, there's a lot more people that do want it, and it does seem to be the safest way to make it accessible for our children, our families, our communities. Sidewalks have been proven to bring up property values by 20%. It brings neighborhoods together. It's not a nuclear plant. It's an amazing opportunity. So, and then to take advantage of the grant, we're already spending $50,000 of the school budget to just put an isolated 1,700-foot asphalt sidewalk that just connects the 2 driveways. That was in support when they did the outreach before Neck River was started construction. So it would be wonderful to be able to extend that. Thanks.
Thank you, Jessica. Boys, you want to say something? Anybody else in the public?
No homework. If you go to a public meeting, you don't have homework.
Anybody else in the public would like to speak? Anybody virtually?
There are hands raised online. Go ahead, Jared.
Hi, thank you. Yes, this is Jared Gilbert, 62 Jefferson Park Road. And I think everybody has said very well the pros and cons thus far, but I would just like to say I'm in favor of moving forward with the next phase for this. My son will be in Neck Road the next fall. He's currently at Jeffrey, but I think that the benefits definitely warrant the funds that we've talked about financially to move forward with the next study and to unlock potential grants and also the next phases of the program. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for all the work thus far and the consideration. And I know my family and I are definitely in support of this. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
No one else has raised their hand online.
Anybody else from the public would like to speak? Second time, virtually anybody else? If being none, the public information session is now closed. New business, discuss and take action to accept donations approved by the Board of Selectmen on March 11, 25. A, from neighbor to neighbor, in amount of $10,000 for Madison Youth Family Services for residents in need of emergency funding where there are no other programs. And B, the Madison Chamber of Commerce, in amount of $10,000 beach and rec for fountain pump for Texas Pond. Continue maintenance of the pump and fountain. Can I get that in the form of a motion, please? Thank you. Second by Katie. Bob, also, any discussion?
I have a question.
Dude, yes.
And the neighbor to neighbor $10,000 donation. Where does that money go? Where is there an emergency fund that the town has?
Yes.
And how does?
What if
who's
no
the
one
signs? How does it
I
work?
guess if there is a fund, how do they access?
Yeah.
Um, There's a, yeah, it's a social services thing and there's criteria established, there's an application process, there's vetting. I can't speak specifically, you know, but I think that's part of the operations of community services. So it's not just to their department, it's, there's specific uses usually associated with this. And they get donations frequently from neighbor to neighbor. This is a larger one. Is this going to like any? Yeah.
It just says there's no other
Yeah.
programs
Just
available.
it says referendum.
And the process is that the social services director, she does work very closely with neighbor to neighbor, so for every request that comes through, she does still discuss it with the neighbor to neighbor, even though she already has the money granted, she still discusses it with them. So everyone is on the same page of how the money's being used.
Thank you, Chris.
Sure. I do it a lot.
You have your hand up?
Yeah, I have a comment and want to just thank Neighbor to Neighbor again. They are a remarkable organization and a great partner to a lot of our town programs. So I'm grateful for the work that they do.
Any other comments of John?
Yeah, I'll just say, these are easy motions. This is the first easy, this is the first easy decision tonight. But thank you to neighbor, and also thank you to Madison Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so
Well said.
just want to echo what was said.
Anybody else comments or questions? I think we all agree, thank you, Master Chamber, they seeing none, all those in favor, say aye, or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed, abstention, that motion carries. Number 8, discuss and take action to approve releasing funds from the planning reserve in amount of $32,150 to fund the engineering study for the Green Hill Sidewalk Road Improvement Project. January 27, 25. Did I get that in the form of a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion made by Katie and Bob.
I'll take a second.
Is that all right? Motion made in second. Discussion.
Yeah, I have a couple questions.
Matt, go ahead.
Mr. Bean, so this is new to a lot of us, and thank you for the emails. I've got some emails from the community and everything. So I do have two questions. One, when it comes to the safety of the students, it seems like it'd be safer to be able to build a sidewalk within the footprint of the schools as opposed to going on the streets. Is that impossible to do?
Yeah, so in the footprint of the schools would be within the property lines? I just don't understand, I guess.
Yeah.
I think maybe this would be more appropriate for the town to answer because
Oh,
he's
okay.
he's chair of the
Yeah,
vice
he's-
pen.
Okay, yeah.
So there, and I don't know if you would listen to several other meetings that we had about this. I think there's been 5 now since last summer. But when the school plan was put together, there was a discussion about trying to connect the campuses through a suspension bridge, right, going over the Neck River. And I can't remember, one of the engineering firms basically talked about it would be so cost prohibitive because of the wetlands and the nature of the property to do something like that. And so it was kind of shelved, right? It was like, this was gonna be cost prohibitive. We knew the school was gonna have to have a sidewalk out front of it. And we started talking about, well, why don't we expand the sidewalk to connect the other campuses and just use the sidewalk to do it? And then this evolved into a whole conversation about how do we improve safety on Green Hill Road? So this project has really evolved. It's no longer just connecting the 2 schools. It is how do we improve public safety in an area that's gonna have 70% of our school children, as well as a lot of the community use 7 days a week, right? Because we have all these athletic facilities that are used by the public outside of school hours. And then we got a lot of feedback from residents about traffic safety on the road. So we said, why don't we also look at roadway improvements too? So let's try to help the homeowners. Let's try to help the people that want to walk and help the school population. So that is kind of how this evolves. So now why we're asking for more funding is to have the engineers look at all of this roadway improvements, the most optimal kind of sidewalk or pedestrian improvements. And some of the plans that have been drawn up before might change, because they're now trying to incorporate a lot more into it. Before it was kind of like a quick look to address a specific thing that we were talking about doing. So, and that helps with the evolution of this. So could you still do some sort of pathway or possibly, but the problem with that is now you've shut off, that doesn't help, that's closed during school hours. So during school hours, you can't have the public traipsing through the campus either. So this is now addressing like a broader neighborhood community issue, so.
I was just thinking, because if my kid was there, I would want them off the streets, I'd want them connecting in the schools.
Yeah,
Second question is, we have beautiful, beautiful sidewalks now from Woodland going to 79. Was there any thought about from Cops down to Woodland to connect for better connectivity with the town? And kids could run, and then even, you know, for people on Cops to be able to go into the schools that way.
so this is what the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee and the town is working on with the town planner right now. We're doing a whole town-wide bike ped plan, like feasibility, you know, looking at where the areas that it would be best to put sidewalks and bike trails and everything. So that's gonna have
Yeah, that's started.
recommendations. We just started.
Now.
Yeah.
So that is a plan. I mean, we're kind of like zoomed in on the microscope, right? This is if we look holistically on Madison, the idea of the master plan is to have safe connections and networks of good pedestrian routes and cyclist routes so that you can navigate around town. A great thing that I think of is, you know, Brantford has the Brantford Trail, and what they say is, well, anywhere you are in town can walk somewhere within a few miles, and they can hit that Brantford Trail and get onto trails and connect throughout town. So when we zoom out from just this Green Hill Mungertown area, this is gonna be a vital connection throughout the town. The new sidewalk area that you just said across Woodland and Concord Meadows there, that will go all the way to town. So now the gap between town and the schools is becoming much, much smaller. There's also routes that we're looking at to connect north to south. So we want folks that live in North Madison that ride their bike to commute every day to have that. So it's hard to see it all when you're zoomed in on a specific project, but this is the holistic view that the master plan that we're developing right now is really going to address for the town.
One follow-up question, I believe in one of the meetings of the board of selectmen, you were speaking with Bruce Wilson. Right. And I'm not a cyclist, I believe you are. Will cyclists use the sidewalk instead of the road?
Not usually, you know, maybe kids will. I believe there's an ordinance for downtown that you cannot ride a bike on it. You know, my son, when he was a little kid learning to ride his bike, if we were on a scary road and there was a sidewalk, I was like, get off the sidewalk. But it's not, you know, someone that's a true cyclist isn't gonna go on a sidewalk. Not unless it's like life or death, right?
It's more for the kids on the sidewalk.
Yeah, I don't see it as an issue, but it's, you know, it's definitely something to acknowledge.
Can I ask a clarifying question about the study?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Go
you.
ahead, Megan, you're the community liaison with the parent.
You
just got a promotion.
I just want to clarify though, because I think that's a great point. And my other point of clarification is I just want to say as a parent who voted in favor of Neck River is that we were told pretty clearly that there would be a bridge between. And so that has always been communicated as something that was going to happen, is that we would not lose the connection between the high school, the middle school, and the new elementary school that exists right now. So I think it's important that we do what we can to stand by that. But my other point of clarification is that it sounds like what you are voting on, the $32,000 study, will answer the question that you have, as well as the sidewalk question is there an alternative way to connect the schools that we're not thinking of right now?
So let's follow that up. Is that part of the study?
That's the question. It sounds like if it is truly holistic of that area, it should answer that question
I mean,
too.
well, but I think right now the goal is to get lots of funding. Lots of does not cover walkways
I know.
inside property. This is, lots of is a funding source by the state for roadway improvements, and they include sidewalks along the roadway. So this is focusing on the grant application. So there can be a further conversation about, do we still want to have that internal, you know, that would be another project. But this project, I think, really has to be limited to roadway improvements and sidewalks, which is what qualifies for the lots of money.
No,
And I want to be really kind here to everyone. Normally I don't go with the back and forth with the public and the board. So to me, you know, this is for a study, right? This is for the study in that area. So, you know, we're going to go through that in terms of it. And then if we want to expand this, we can. But right now, this is a study to see the viability of it, which I think it's pretty much agreed what it is.
Well, and the board will be voting on the application, right? Lots of applications, so you will get to see what's
Right,
actually gonna
exactly.
submit to the state.
And then, and we all know there's lots of money and other things that go involved to help pay for it. I'm gonna have my comments at the end. Bob, you wanna say anything?
I just had a question and comment. I wanted to just mention the fact that we received quite a lot of communication that seemed to be mostly positive about this in general. We did, I think, receive some other commentary as well. Did anyone ever quantify the yays versus nays as far as the numbers who were in support versus who were not?
Yes, I did. This morning, as of my last count, there were 79 letters in favor and 9 against. However, a significant portion, I don't have the exact number of those in favor, were basically carbon copy letters. Am I not correct? That were basically approved mail. So that the total number was about 84 and 9 against.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Is that it, Bob?
Yes.
John?
You know, I would have to think close to 100% of our residents believe the traffic in that area, the roads, there have to be some improvement. So I'm kind of encouraged from what I've heard about that this is basically to do that. The sidewalk is another issue. I think there's going to be a mix of, yays and nays. But it sounds to me, and I know this is a tough question, how much of this study was for the roadways versus how much for the sidewalks? But you can't really pull it apart, call one. Yeah. That's all I have.
2?
I think that this is going to be a good study to undertake, and I'm anxious to see what it comes up.
Okay.
I have a question about the grant. Are there any stipulations to the grant, any matching, anything?
No, you'll be voting on that. Lot SIP is 100, we have to pay for all design and pre-construction design, right? And then 100% of the construction is funded by Lot SIP. So Lot SIP is as a state, basically.
Like a local capital improvement?
Yeah, well, no, there's two. There's Lot SIP and low SIP, and I always mix them up.
That's why I want to ask,
Lot
because
SIP,
there is two, and I want to know
yeah.
which one we're talking.
They are
Yeah.
different.
Yeah,
But
they're,
there's no matching funds or no?
Definitely not a LoSiP.
no.
Okay, and then I just, want to say, I, to do a study like this, at a minimum, seems like a no-brainer. I'm gonna go so far as to say, I am in full support of sidewalks for many reasons. Not the least of which is my boys all went to the high school and to Polson and to Jeffrey for that matter. Not only is there a lot of traffic in that area, but you have a lot of new drivers. And all of my boys are new drivers, and I've seen some horrific accidents. They were also on cross country, so that was a prayer every time. And I still see them running and worry for them. I do not think it is simple. I do think that that beautiful tree is not something that you want to neglect at all and should be addressed. I think that's the purpose of this study, one of the purposes of this study. And I'm glad that it is being considered as part of it. Additionally, I am glad to hear there's no stipulations on this. I think I was on the Board of Education when the sidewalks went in front of Polson, and people at that point said, "Will never get used. There's enough grass for them to walk on." That sidewalk gets used a lot. It has increased walkers to and from those buildings. And it has decreased the amount of cars as well. And that is a highly trafficked area, even though they now have staggered times. I lived through a time when they didn't have staggered start times, and it was a nightmare. So to me, it's been said many times, no brainer. To me, it's no brainer. To at least study it, but then I hope it gets done.
Thank you, Katie. John?
I think the study is an important thing to do because, particularly to Peggy's point, that we want to not just look at a sidewalk per se, but we also want to look at highway safety, road safety. I think that's critical. I'd like to really get the data on
what we can do to improve that whole section of Green Hill Road. And it's nerve-wracking to drive it on. Concur.
Matt?
Yeah, I'm in favor of the study in and of itself for the road safety. But I think if we really want to keep our kids safe, we need to look at internal pathways. Just get them off the road, you know? Also with connectivity, I'm glad there's a master plan. I would love to see aside if you know, with the money, there's less homeowner impact going down Cops Road to Woodland, be wonderful. So not favorite of this segment of the sidewalk, but definitely the road study for overall safety.
Thank you, Matt. So listen, I'm gonna say my 2 cents and then we'll move on with this, but I do think the study is very important. I do think the sidewalks, and I know what you're saying, but I do think sidewalks get kids off the road also. And I think that's very important. And the sidewalks that go downtown are being used a lot now, and the aesthetic is unbelievable. It just looks that much better. You know, I'm not sure about the property value increase, but I feel I get your point. The maintenance is there. It's on the homeowner. You know, I don't know what this agreement would be from 10 to 20 years from now, but normally when a sidewalk's put in by a town and it's a residential property, the homeowner is responsible. That's the way it works.
If it's a bridge.
Yeah. So I don't want to go back and forth, but I just think it's so important. Yeah, I have kids that play sports there that do so many things. They ride their bike and now driving, but you know, it's, I think it really needs to be done, but I'm in favor of the study and I do think the sidewalks are extremely important. Okay, with that, any other discussion or comments?
Just want to say that I really think it's great for everybody and that parents of children are definitely not the only demographic in this town. So good for us.
That's right. That's why I said the bikers, the riders, the joggers, all things, nature lovers. All right, all those, I don't think we need a roll call. So all those in favor, signify by saying aye to approve the study of the plan reserve at 3150. Aye. Any opposed? Abstention, that motion carries. Thank you, everyone. We have item 9, discuss and take action to approve a lease agreement with American Tower Asset Sub LLC for the community's tower on State Route 79, approved by the Board of Selectmen March 11, 25. Can I get that in the form of a motion? Motion made by Katie this time and the second by Matt. Discussion?
Oh, no, yes.
Yeah.
CIP.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention, that motion carries. Review of the financials. We've gone through this for a while. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Anybody want to say something on Fillmore's behalf? Anything? Right, seeing none. We have citizens' comments. Anybody from the public who'd like to speak? Second time.
Jacqueline, there's somebody online.
Hey, Jacqueline.
Oh, hi. I live at 62 Jefferson Park Road in Madison, and I am in support of the sidewalks. I was just also thinking and have some questions about how to leverage like green energy savings in the grant. If a grant is in process, like how do we focus on people walking more in general for health reasons and for care for the environment, in addition to safety, which is paramount for me and for my family and I, with a kindergartner who will be starting first grade at the next school next year. And I would just love to feel safer walking with him, in addition to everything that everyone else has been saying, especially since we do live on Warpus and I don't feel safe at the moment getting to his current school at Jeffrey with the traffic the way it is. So just wanted to emphasize that I'm in favor of this initiative.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Anybody else from the public virtually or in person would like to speak? Jane, anybody, second time?
No one online.
There being none, public information session is now closed. I'd like to thank everybody for the time they put in this evening, and right now I'd like for a motion to adjourn. Motion made, I get a second. Second by John, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, meeting is adjourned at 7:39. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.